Hi there. This video is intended strictly for my algebra classes at the current time. This is the school year of 19 and 20, and we are towards the third quarter and hopefully third quarters of the way through or halfway through or more than that of our quarantine. Not so much fun. So here I am with makeshift whiteboard, and I am going to go over the practice questions on the Nearpod for those of you that struggled with it. So we are factoring completely, which means we always want to start by finding a GCF. So I'm going to look at number one. This was after the first video. You had this one to try. So number one says 2y squared plus 24y plus 54. And they don't all have a variable, so we definitely can't take it a variable, but they are all even numbers, so I'm going to ask myself if I can divide them all by 2. And in D I can, because I have a 2. 24 is divisible by 2, and 54 is divisible by 2. So that's the first thing that I'm going to do, is go ahead and divide each term by 2. When doing this, I'm dividing everything by 2, but I'm also factoring out, which means I have to put it in the front, right? And the leftovers go inside our parentheses. So in this case, our 2's will cancel. We'll be left with y squared plus 24 divided by 2 will be 12. That y stays the same. Plus 54 divided by 2 is 27. Okay, so we've gotten that far. Now, we may think we're done, but we have a quadratic trinomial, which is usually factorable by reverse box method. So we're going to try that. And if we follow the steps of that, we need to figure out what our a is, in this case 1, b, the second term, 12, and c, the third term, positive 27. Right, so our steps of box method or reverse box method is multiply a times c, so we're going to end up with positive 27. Then we have to list the factors, so 1 and 27, I always do it twice. Can't divide it by 2, but I could do 3 and 9. Okay, and there are no other factors of 27, so now I keep my pairs agreeing because it's a positive number. And the next step would be to find the pair that adds to b, which is our middle term. So which one of these sets is going to add to positive 12? Well, 3 plus 9, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so that's the set that I'm going to use. Now, when I say use it, I mean what I'm doing is replacing the middle term with these two numbers. So I'm going to make my box. I'm going to put my first term in my top left, so that's y squared. Man, it's cold down here. Put my last term in the bottom box, and then replace my diagonals. So I have 3y and 9y with the new numbers. Right, and then we take out the GCF from each row and each column. So over here it's y, down here it's positive 3. Up here it's y again, and over here it's positive 9. Which means this trinomial factored is actually y plus 3, y plus 9. But don't forget, we took something out in the beginning, so we have to bring that down. Okay, so that was number one. That was after the first slide, right? The second one that we did is similar to a dots, right? It's a binomial, so I want to start thinking about dots because there's a subtraction in the middle. And when I look at it, 27 is not a perfect square, neither is 3, so the next thing I have to ask myself is if I can pull out a GCF. And in fact, 3 and 27 are both divisible by 3, which means that 3 is our GCF. So we're going to pull out 3, which means we're going to divide both terms by 3. So this cancels, x squared stays the same, minus stays the same, and 27 divided by 3 is 9, right? So we pulled out a GCF, and now we have dots. We have a difference in the middle, difference of 2 squares. So I have an x squared, even variable, which means it's a perfect square, even exponent, sorry, and a perfect square number, so we can get the square root of that. Which means this jazz is going to turn into a double bubble with different signs. Square root of the first term goes in the front spots. And remember, when you're getting the square root of a variable, you just divide the exponent by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. So you have x1, x1. And then the square root of 9 is 3. So that goes here and here. And then that last trick, please don't forget to bring down the first thing you took out, that 3. Boom. Okay? Now we're just going to take it one step further, because this one was a little bit harder, because there was more things to take out than just a number. So looking at this one, I can take out 2 for sure, because they're all even numbers and I have a 2 here, but they all have at least one A, which means I can also take out a 2A. So for this one, this time I'm going to put 2A down here, and I'm going to divide each term by 2A, right? So the leftovers, 2 divided by 2 is 1, so I don't have to write anything for that. When we're dividing variables, all we do is subtract the exponents. So a to the third minus 1 is going to be a squared. Then minus 10 divided by 2 is 5. A squared minus a1 is just 1a. And minus, again, 28 divided by 2 is 14, and the a's cancel there. All right, so we factored out the GCF, but now the whole point of this thing that we're doing is to see if there's anything left to factor. So we have a quadratic trinomial, which means we might be able to use reverse box method. So let's try it. A term here is 1, B is -5, and C is -14. Negative. Okay, so with that, I'm actually going to bring it over here. I'm going to multiply A times C. Let me just cut this off so we know where I'm working. Okay, A times C, which is 1 times -14, -14, and list the factors. 1 and 14, 2 and 7, and that's all of them. And now in this case, we have a negative number, which means our negative is going to bounce back and forth between our pairs. Okay, got that? Good. Now we look back, our B term is -5. So which one of these pairs is going to add to -5? That's going to be 2 and -7. So when we make our box, we're going to fill in our first term in the top left, our third term in the bottom right, and we're going to replace our middle term with our new factors, 2a and -7a. Okay, and then we're going to factor out of this box just like we did up there. So over here in this case, they both have an a in common. Down here, I can take out a +2. Going down this column, these both have an a in common. And over here, I'm going to take out a -7. Okay, now the reason why I'm taking out a negative is because it was in the front box. Anytime you have a negative in the front, you got to take it out. Okay, so this is what we're left with. So I come over here. Sorry, my legs are in the way. I come over here and I have a + 2, a -7. Don't want that to look like a 9. And then I can't forget the original thing that I took out. I have to bring that over here. Okay, I hope that that clarifies it for you if anyone was confused. This is what we have for the lovely Nearpod. And if you guys have any questions, you definitely know how to reach me. All right, hope everyone is well. Talk to you soon.